Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny and today we are going to take a midsummer tour of both the shade garden and the cottage garden, and I'm going to give you some tips on maintenance and maybe some problems that you are running into in your garden that are very common. So we're going to address that. I wanted to give you just really a kind of a tour and update because we've been here so many different times, but you were with me back in the late spring when I planted this bed, took care of it. So it's time for an update. Now remember, this bed is my primary shade garden here at the house. We sit in the middle of the wide open field, so this is really going to be my main shade garden. It's right outside of our kitchen, so we look at this all the time, and it's right along our driveway. So this is kind of a high traffic, high profile area. It gets morning sun and then it gets afternoon shade. So let's just go through here. Now, while we're here, I want to give you a tour update on this beautiful wall hanging that I got from Kinsman Garden. If you remember, we put a PEGASUS begonia in here. This is really just mainly a foliage plant, gorgeous color, nice big huge leaves on it, nice big presence. On each side are some impatiens. There's a couple of blooms back there, but it's a hot pink bloom. So there's one on this side and there's one on this side. And then of course, that great lime green sweet potato vine. You cannot go wrong with this. This is pretty vigorous. So you can see I have one kind of shooting up here. So I've been going in here and as I have, crazy wild runners that go, I have been keeping it trimmed up. If I had not kept it trimmed up, it would probably be down to the ground now. It's simple. You just take your clippers and just cut it. You don't have to be precise. You really can't hurt sweet potato vine. Now, coming on over here, the window box, the hay rack is doing magnificently well. Remember, we planted this in that video. In the back, we have the ANGELWING begonias in the pink color. ANGELWING begonias are definitely a shade-loving plant. Again, they do get some morning sun. Remember, shade is 4 hours or less. So they are doing great. And then in front is the White Wonder Caladium. I think there was 3 or 4. Anyway, I don't remember how many exactly there are in there. But again, they're doing great. You've got that beautiful foliage, that pop of the pink from the begonias, and they are just doing fantastic. This is not on irrigation, so I do have to hand water this. If it rains, it will get some rain, but it is under kind of the eave of the house. So really, I am the main source of water for that hay rack. But it's doing fantastic. If you notice your begonia is getting a little too tall, feel free just to kind of take the top out. I did that the other day. I took the top out. It'll just keep them nice and compact and keep them from being leggy. The bed is doing great. I love how everything has come together, has filled out, getting nice and thick. This is, I think these are the only, I do have some impatiens down there at the back, but this Endless Illumination BROWALLIA is the only annual in here that's like actually planted in the bed. Again, BROWALLIA is a shade-loving plant. I love the Endless Illumination. It is just a great performer for us with our heat and humidity. These are one plant. So in the groups that you see, that's only one plant that has been planted there. They get nice and full, and they just have those beautiful deep purple blooms that just bloom continuously throughout the entire season. Absolutely stunning. And then of course, remember we planted the smoke and mirrors. This is the new HEUCHERA from Walter's Gardens that we are trialing. Here I have them in a little container, a little pot. And so they're doing great. They've already had their blooms, so I trimmed back their blooms on them. And then that is the Evening Gown HEUCHERA, another trial from Walter's that we are doing. They're doing great. They are just looking magnificent. Now, some things that maybe you're running into in your garden. If you will notice, here we have our zebra hydrangea, and on each side in the back are some bleeding hearts. And you might be looking at the bleeding hearts and the hydrangea and you're going, well, they look a Look a little sad there, Jenny. Well, remember bleeding hearts. They are cool weather perennials. They like it nice and cool. It's hot. It is the end of July and November. Our heat and humidity is cranking. They don't like that. So what you see is they're starting to kind of take the energy away from keeping the foliage alive, and they're sending more energy back into the roots. So I'm just gonna let them do their thing. If they get really, yellow, then I can cut them to the ground, no problem. Zebra hydrangea. You'll notice we have a little bit of some black spots on the hydrangea. Because of our heat and humidity, we really deal with this time of year into the end of the summer. This is just a common fungus that happens. It's not going to be detrimental to the plant. It's not going to kill the plant. It just makes it look ugly. If I had been on top of things, I could have, before this ever started applying a fungicide, and this would not happen. The new foliage you can see does not have that. This is just a common occurrence here in the South. One way that you can help prevent that is if you have overhead watering, stop that. You need to really be watering at the base of the plant, the roots, and not getting a lot of water on top of the hydrangea. But again, with our heat and humidity, I can't control that. Everything is doing good. Look at how much the spot-ons have grown. So if you remember when I planted the spot-ons, they had been in those nursery cans for a while, and they were looking a little pitiful. Man, do they love their new home right there. They have just grown by leaps and bounds and are just doing, oh, I am so excited. Next year, that BROWALLIA will not be able to be there because those pulmonaria will be massive and huge. Those are great perennials, deer resistant, rabbit resistant, beautiful blooms. The caladiums with the silver, the dichondra silver falls back there is doing quite nicely. Probably if that was on irrigation, those caladiums would be bigger. It's all right. They're doing just fine. No big deal. And there's sweet little bashful Betty over there. Great little statue that we got from Unique Stone. Now, every time I do a picture on social media or a video, people are like, what is this thing? This is an Ariella Sun King. It is a perennial. There's actually two here because when I planted them, they were quite small. So they're actually, this is one plant and this is one plant. They're about 3.5 feet apart from each other. Clearly, they love this spot. Again, morning sun, afternoon shade. This Sun King is a fantastic shade perennial. In the winter, it will die completely back, so it will be completely gone. I know somebody said, well, why do you even have your hay rack right there? Well, when I put the hay rack up, the Sun Kings weren't this big. This fall, I may end up removing one. I don't know, I haven't figured that out yet, but they are doing just glorious. Now, underneath it, I've had to kind of keep it pruned back because I have like an autumn frost hosta down here. I have my Queen of Hearts, Brunaria. There is actually a fern under here, so like I'll have to bring in my clippers, which I just so happen to have on hand here if I can get them out. So if you need to prune back your Sun King, don't worry, just get in there, find where a good stalk is, and start, just cutting it back. So here we have my ferns right here. I know this is a problem, so I go in, find it, if I can go all the way back, and then I come in here and just clip, boom. Now you can actually see where the fern is, and the fern can get some sunlight. So everything is doing great. This is a hydrangea. This is Diva from Proven Winners. It is a lace cap. Again, you'll notice that end of summer, the petals are starting to turn a little bit. This does not have the fungus on it that the zebra does. So we're doing great. Jerry and I have talked about, we're probably gonna put some drip irrigation on this bed to help. I think that would help prolong the blooms a little bit. And then of course, here we have Franny's hydrangea. We call it Franny's hydrangea because my college roommate, Francesca, or Franny as we call her, gave it to us when we moved into our house 17, almost 18 years ago. We believe this is actually a Fuji waterfall. Just a beautiful, gorgeous, pale blue, a little bit of white in there. This is a lace cap hydrangea. We're gonna carefully move down this way, because if you remember when I was planting in this bed, there is a yellow jacket's nest in the ground right behind where those white impatiens that are still in the cans are. Yellow jackets, if you do not know, they put their nest in the ground. They are extremely aggressive if provoked. So if we just stand here and leave them alone, then they're fine. No big deal whatsoever. But these in the ground are doing fantastic. So this is just a sun impatient, white sun impatient, getting nice and big, beautiful, fantastic. Love these things. And then this is the Let's Dance Starlight Hydrangea. It is another lace cap. You can see all of this right here is all new foliage. We actually had our porches cleaned and then painted in the spring, and our sweet friend who was doing it was using like a bleach solution to clean the porches, and the hydrangea got some overspray on it, and it obviously didn't kill it, but it really kind of burned some of the leaves and all of my buds. So I didn't get a lot of blooms this year. It's all right, it's no big deal, next year. And then this is just another ghost fern with the Solomon seal, fantastic shade loving perennial. So that is the shade garden. It's coming along beautifully. It really is just, I love all the colors and the textures. So what we're gonna do is move over here to the cottage garden. Now, you know, Jenny, I show you the good, the bad, the ugly, real life, real gardening here. This area needs some love, but, and I've loved on one section and I haven't loved on the other. Anyway, life happens and you do what you do and you go with it. There is grace in gardening. Cottage garden, this huge, there's really 3 parts to this whole cottage garden. We have 2 beds on the lower end. This is where we have a lot of perennials. I put some fun annuals in there. This is kind of like, if it strikes my fancy and I want to put it in here, I put it in here. Then the next layer is our garden boxes. We have five garden boxes up there that I do mostly. I do have an herb box, vegetables, and then we have some zinnias up there that reseeded from last year, so they are there. And then the top tier is our hydrangea bed. So we have it, we'll go up there in a little bit. So just so you know, there's kind of like 3 layers to this cottage garden. So we're just gonna kind of walk through and give you an update on some things. Again, it could use some love, but again, I'm gonna show you that even our gardens are not pristine and perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. That is just a crazy illusion. Now, this is AMSONIA. AMSONIA HUBRITCHII, which is a fantastic native perennial, early spring bloomer, gorgeous light blue star blooms on it. I read in a fine gardening magazine that you could actually trim it back. So I really came in here and whacked it back, because otherwise it gets tall and it gets really floppy and it will just kind of like fall over and really fill in this whole area. So we've got daylilies in here. We've got some great Monarda that we were trialing for Walter's Gardens. So this is Monarda. It's got tons of new growth on it, and hopefully will flush out with some more blooms for me. We've got the canna lilies. Now, canna lilies, if you've got canna lilies in your garden and you have, we're gonna do real life gardening here, after you have a bloom that is already done, you take your clippers and you just come in here to the base where your next leaves are. It's just like anything else, and you're just gonna cut the stalk. So you cut the stalk off, and even if it doesn't bloom again, this Cleopatra has got gorgeous foliage on it. Now, behind here is the Nephophia. This is Flashpoint, Red Hot Poker. You may know it as. Again, old bloom, so I'm gonna come in here. It's not hard. You just come in, go down as far as you can go, snip it, take that, and discard it. So we just come in here, and basically this is what I call cleaning up the plant. You just wanna make it look tidy. Again, here's a canna. Both of those can come off. And instantly, even again, if you just have the foliage, it's a beautiful plant. So there's a lot of that, especially with perennials, that you just kind of have to do your maintenance. My daylilies were absolutely gorgeous. I think this was Ruby Spider. It needs to be cleaned up. Same thing. You go down, you cut the stalk, discard it, and just cleaning up your bed will make a huge difference on it. Now, talking about cleaning up, let's look at this. Banana Cream Shasta Daisy. This is an oldie, good, standard, fantastic, gorgeous Shasta Daisy from Proven Winners and Walter's Gardens. You'll notice I've got all of my old blooms right here. Shasta Daisies perform really well when you can come in and you can deadhead them. You will get another flush of blooms. Again, all you're doing is coming down, like on this one, you come down to where there's a leaf, you come in with your clippers, and you just simply snip. So you just come around and you're just clipping. It's not hard. You just come in. You can't hurt the plant. If you want to go deeper, go deeper. It's fine, because you don't really want, like, don't do this. That just looks bad. No, 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 no. Come in and you can go deep, and if you clip it, then really you can't even tell that it's been clipped. And then these will flush back out again. So we'll get this all cleaned up. This plant has been here for 3 years, I believe. So Banana Cream. Then right next door is Banana Cream 2. So Banana Cream 2 is going to be out on the market next year. Banana Cream 2, now this was a little tiny plant, remember, this was a trial. This is a 3-year-old plant. So that's why the difference in size. But Banana Cream 2 is a little bit of an earlier bloomer. It has more of the yellow on it, holds its blooms longer. It's just an improved version of Banana Cream. And again, you want to come in here and clean up, and there you go. We've got some coleus in here. This is Miss Molly. Not Miss Molly, that's a butterfly bush. Miss Huff. Miss Huff is a perennial lantana for us here in North Carolina. She is covered in those orange and pink blooms. The butterflies and the hummingbirds just go crazy over this plant. Now, Miss Huff can get really big, especially as your plant is more mature. Year after year, it just gets really large. Don't be afraid to come in here and prune it back. It is okay, especially during the growing season, you can prune it back. So let me show you an example of how I would prune this back, because right here, if you will notice, I have some butterfly weed planted. It's doing great, by the way. But can you tell how Miss Huff is kind of coming in and crowding out my butterfly weed? So I need my butterfly weed to have some sun. So what I do, again, it's like that Sun King. You just come in and I want to go pretty far back. So you go back and you come in here and you just clip. Now look, instantly, by removing that one branch, I have a lot more sun, a lot more exposure, because back here my butterfly weed is starting to turn yellow. If it doesn't get the sun, it can't perform its photosynthesis and all that good stuff. So you just want to come in here and feel free to prune it back some so that it doesn't overcrowd your plants. If I didn't keep this one pruned back, it would really take over this whole bed. If that's what you want, then great. But if you want to have other plants kind of underplanted, you're going to have to keep it trimmed up a little bit. Jerry and I go back and forth every season. We're like, is she staying? Is she going? She's too big. She's not, you know, can she stay? Anyway, we're trying to figure out if she stays or if she goes somewhere else. Ultraviolet phlox. Now, this ultraviolet phlox, brand new from Proven Winners, Walter's Gardens. This one is at the end kind of its bloom season. It is just magnificent. It is called ultraviolet for a reason. It has, I mean, electric colors on it. It is doing gorgeous. So there's one on this side and there's one on this side. Now, on each side of the stairwell, we have, these are the SUPERTUNIA MINI-VISTAs, and this is hot pink. They're doing fantastic. They could use a little fertilizer, but other than that, they're doing really well. This section of the bed, I have mulched. This section of the bed, I have not mulched, and it needs to be weeded. Again, full disclosure here, right? We do have Vermillionaire in both of the beds. They're doing great, loving life. Let me show you, because I showed you what the one AMSONIA looked like when I pruned it. This is the same exact plant that has not been pruned. So you can tell when I say it gets kind of floppy, you can see how it's laying over, especially if you get wind and rain, it'll just flop over. I can still come back. It is not too late in the season to come back and prune this up to make it neat and tidy. Again, yes, I have weeds. Yes, I need to prune. That's all right. It is all good. Let's move up here to the next level really quick because I want to show you, oh my goodness, things are just doing prolific up here. So in this bed has really kind of, this one, it has, like I said, volunteers of zinnias. This was last year. They came up. The butterflies are loving them. Again, if you can deadhead your zinnias, they will last a lot longer. So we have zinnias here. I've got honeybees here. I've got my zucchini is growing quite nicely. I love this zucchini. It's an Italian heirloom, so they naturally get big. Like they're supposed to get big, and they're practically seedless. They are delicious. We've grown them for years. I was trying to see if I had one in there growing. I don't see one. They've got those. I've got the green beans. Green beans are doing meh. We get a potato beetle and they'll eat the chew holes in the plants. My first crop of green beans did great. These don't have very much fruit on them. I mean, they have like a little, look at that. Look at that poor little teeny green bean. That, my friend, is what you call a little baby green bean. They're delicious that way, but you know, it would take a lot to feed a family of 5. Also in here, so then the next is the herbs. So we've got the herb box, then my tomatoes. They're delicious, they're prolific, but my goodness, my cages were not big enough and they have fallen over. And then down here, come down here, Jerry, I want to show you the cucumbers. This is where sometimes I struggle. I struggle as far as like maintaining my vegetables throughout the end of the season. Again, tomatoes doing great. Oh my gosh, they're prolific. Cages weren't big enough. So next year, we're gonna have to obviously get taller cages or do like post and twine and hold them up. But they're fine, they're still delicious. Now, I know that cucumbers should be trellised. I know. Didn't do it. All right, so they are now running for me. But these cucumbers, of course, you want to get them when they are, excuse me, little bee. You want to get them when they are relatively small. Oh, I do have clippers. Oh well. So, look at that beautiful cucumber. So delicious, nice and crispy. I don't remember what variety it is. We'll pop it up on the screen. These, again, are doing prolific. And then in front of it, I have some yellow squash. This is a straight neck squash. If you can look, let's see if I can get in there. Can you see him, Jerry? He says yes. So there are some beautiful squash in there. From experience, if you've never grown squash cucumbers before, I really recommend wearing gloves because they're a little spiny and they're a little, they can be a little prickly. I want to show you the little limes and the firelights. So what we're going to do is Jerry and I, we're going to pivot, and come over here. I'm going to come up this way. Whoop. Unique stone. I've got 4 of these between each box. This is a Penta. This is the SUNSTAR Penta in rose, which is that great hot pink. I do think at some point I'm gonna get pedestals for my urns because they really just get lost. I need to bring them up. So I'm gonna probably get urns for those, but I've got 4 of those. Now, up here, again, excuse the weeds. You know, I show you real life here, people. This is a little lime hydrangea. Is she not gorgeous? And this is the little limes. And we prune them back every late winter, early spring. It's because they bloom on new growth. These are full sun. These are established and they're not on irrigation. When we first planted them, they were on irrigation. They are now not on irrigation. Doing great. But again, they're at the bottom of the hill, so if it rains, it comes down and they get lots of water. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them up here. And then beyond, these are new as far as like, this is its 2nd summer that we have had the firelight hydrangeas. Now, the firelights will get nice and big, just like a limelight. So these will get 8 to 10 feet tall. Again, same type of hydrangea as the little limes, those panicles, sun-loving, bloom on new growth. We had pruned them way down. So I can see where I had pruned, and so it's grown like this much. So great hydrangeas. They start out that creamy white, and you can see they're called firelights for a reason, because they are all ready to start taking on those pink hues. They will continue to take on those beautiful deep pink, eventually almost to a red. So even for us in the South with our heat and humidity, firelights turn. They are gorgeous and beautiful. I love this hydrangea. It is spectacular. These are on irrigation because when we planted them, it was late spring. Wanted to make sure they survived. Clearly they are. They're doing great. We get asked all the time what this tree is. If you're in the South, you know what it is. If you're not in the South, you're like, what is that gorgeous tree? This is a crepe myrtle. So I don't know the exact name of this, but this is a crepe myrtle. Beautiful lavender pink colored blooms. We got 3.5 inches of rain in the beginning of the week, and man, those limbs were hanging down because of the weight. They'll perk back up. So that makes a spectacular display with all of those. You'll notice that we have a blank spot right here that should have flowers, and it should be mulched, and it shouldn't have any weeds in it, but whatever. Last year we did the silverberries right here. We planted silverberry hanging baskets. They were unbelievably gorgeous. I think what we're going to do is do some sort of other flowering shrub through here. Haven't figured what that is yet. If you got any ideas, throw it in the comments below. We've thought about hibiscus, we've thought about azaleas, we've thought about a different hydrangea. We don't know. So if you have some ideas, I would love to get inspired and hear what you have to say. But this is just, like I said, a real brief midsummer cottage shade garden tour. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope this makes you feel better if you have weeds and hot mess going on in your garden. So does Jenny. It's all good. We'll take care of it as time allows. But as always, thank you so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.